we are going to talk about deficiency diseases. Now, it is very important to understand that there are different kinds of diseases which are not caused by any other microorganisms, but these are caused by certain nutrients which might be absent, or they are caused due to certain nutrients which are absent from our diet. And this is why when we understand these deficiency diseases, we will be able to understand better that what is the need for balanced diet, right? So to avoid these diseases, usually balanced diet is preferred, right? So now when we say deficiency disease, you should understand that there might be a case where a person is able to eat a lot of food, right? He has ample amount of food, but understand this, that person also can suffer from this disease because he or she might not be getting one or the other nutrients properly, and that is why the diet is not balanced, right? So a person may be getting enough food to eat, but sometimes the food may not contain a particular nutrient. So what can happen is, suppose a person is eating lot of junk food, right? So the usually junk food is rich in carbohydrate and fat, whereas it does not have enough vitamin, minerals and proteins. So what is happening there is that all these three things are absent from his diet, and he or she is eating more of the carbohydrate and fat. Although he or she is eating full meal, that means they are able to fill their they do not feel hungry, they have ample amount of food, but what is happening, they are missing on to different nutrients, right? This will cause deficiency disease, right? If this continues over a long period of time, the person may suffer from its deficiency. So what deficiency? That is the protein. If it is absent, deficiency of protein. If vitamins are absent, so deficiency of different vitamins. If minerals are absent, deficiency of those minerals, right? So when a particular type of nutrient is absent from the food for a very long time, it develops deficiency of that particular type of mineral, right? Then deficiency of one or more nutrient can cause diseases or disorders in our body. So if this deficiency also continues for a long time, say for a few years, it has, a person is deficient in, say, protein, right? So this will eventually develop a disease which is associated with the deficiency of protein, right? So these kind of diseases that occur due to the lack of nutrients over a long period of time are called as the deficiency diseases, right? So all these nutrients which we were talking about, that is the carbohydrate, the protein, the fat, right? All these nutrients are very, very important, and it is also very important to eat them in a right quantity, right? And that is the reason why we always insist on a balanced diet which contains everything from carbohydrate to your vitamins and minerals and roughage. So if there is one of the things which is absent for a long time from the food material or from the the diet that you are taking, a person might develop the deficiency of that thing. And suppose for that deficiency also remains for a long period of time, ultimately the person will develop deficiency disease, right? So in this way, these kind of diseases are there. Now let's understand what happens when a person has less amount of protein, especially in the child who is growing, right? So we have seen that how protein is a body building nutrient, and we also saw that it was required by the growing child and even sick people. So when there is deficiency of protein, usually we will find that the growth is stunted, right? That means a child is not able to grow properly, he is not able to have acquire the right growth at the right age, right? So suppose a child who is suffering from deficiency of protein will, suppose there are child A, there is a child B and there is a child C. So suppose A is suffering from protein deficiency at the age, say, 7, whereas B and C are not suffering from that disease, right, or that deficiency. So what will happen in this case is that B and C will have proper growth. They might grow taller than the child A, right? So this shows that there is a stunted growth, right? When severe deficiency is seen, what are the symptoms? Usually in protein deficiency, we see stunted growth. What does this mean? Stunted means stopped. That means the growth is not happening and it is very, very slow. The growth is stopped at one stage, right? Then also what else we see? We see swelling of face, Many a times we also see swelling in the stomach, as you can see, right? So swelling of face is seen. Then you also have different kinds of skin problems associated with it. Apart from that, diarrhea, that means a person will suffer from dehydration, loose motions, right? So diarrhea is also seen. Also, we find that discoloration of hair is another symptom. Now, why is there discoloration of hair? Because the hair that we have are usually made up of protein, and again, when the protein is not available properly in the diet, what happens is that the health of the hair is also affected, and that's why we see the discoloration, right? Then this is the protein deficiency. These are the symptoms associated with protein deficiency, because it is a bodybuilding nutrient. That means it helps in the growth, and wear and it helps in the wear and tear, or rather it repairs the body after wear and tear. So what happens is that major thing which is seen is a stunted growth, right? So the growth is if initial deficiency is developed and a person sees that, okay, yes, the child is not able to develop properly, and they provide the child with the protein, what will happen? Proper amount of protein, what will happen? This particular deficiency will not develop into a disease. But if for long run the deficiency remains as it is, and we do not pay attention to that, what will happen? This deficiency will actually turn into disease, and all of these signs will be seen, all of these things will be seen in that particular child. Then again, there are deficiencies in which we see that carbohydrate, fat, and sometimes protein is also deficient, right? So the person is actually suffering from all of these deficiencies. Usually this happens when the child is not well fed, due to some or the other conditions, economic problems or anything else. The child is not well fed. Usually in the case of malnourishment, we see these kind of problems, right? So what you will find, that the person is lean and thin, right? So these are usually skin and bones that are left, right? So you can see, as in the case of this particular child, the child is really thin, right? Because carbohydrate and fat and protein is not available to them, right? We know that fat is important because it is the mass of the body, the weight of the body, whereas protein on the other case will help in the growth, right? Carbohydrate, apart from that, because we know carbohydrate and fats provide energy, so the child or the person will be very weak, right, and will not have the energy to do different kinds of work, right? So apart from being lean and thin, the person will also be quite weak, and they will not have energy to perform different functions, and they will not be even to day-to-day functions would be difficult to see. Such people who have deficiency of carbohydrate, protein and fat. Now, apart from these, deficiencies of vitamins and minerals also causes various kinds of diseases. But to avoid all these diseases, right, it is very important that we maintain a balanced diet. Now, when we think about it, we know that what is balanced diet? We have already said that all the nutrients are present in the right quantity. If one of the nutrients is absent, we see that what are the different kinds of conditions that are happening, for the child or for the person. So that is why it is important to maintain a balanced diet, right? So let's see what are the different kinds of diseases which are associated with the deficiency of vitamin and minerals. First of all, let's see if there is the deficiency of vitamin A. What happens? The deficiency or disorder is loss of vision. Usually this vision loss is seen during the night time, right? So what are the symptoms? So symptoms, first of all, what exactly do you mean by the word symptom? Usually these are the signs that you see in a person. This is something indicating that something is wrong. Something is, that is not normal. Something is wrong, right? So this is what we see when we associate these signs and symptoms with a disease. So loss of vision is the disorder, and usually what are the signs? We see that there is poor vision. So we see that there is poor vision, then loss of vision in the darkness. This is one of the major symptoms that we see. Then sometimes loss of complete vision. So not only in the darkness, if the deficiency remains for a long time, what will happen? A person will be completely blind, right? This disease is also called as the night blindness, right? Then what are the sources? If a person is having enough of carrots, right, mango, all of these fruits are rich in your these vitamin A, right? Fish oil, all of this is rich in the vitamin A, and to reduce or to remove this deficiency, all of this can be taken, right? So this is what, this is your source of the vitamin. Then you have vitamin B1. We know that vitamin B1, that there are different kinds of vitamins present, and these are certain deficiencies which happen because of the loss of certain vitamins, right? So vitamin B1, when it is deficient, the disease which happens is beriberi, right? The symptoms of this disease is weak muscles and very little energy to work, right? So a person is quite weak, they do not have proper muscle formation and they are not able to work properly, right? So this is one of the symptoms of the deficiency of vitamin B1. Usually we find this in the wheat, right? We find it in rice, and also we find it in your meat, right? So in all these things, in meat specifically, we find it in liver, right? So these are certain things which you can eat to avoid this disease, right? Next you have the vitamin C deficiency. We know vitamin C are usually present in your citrus foods like orange, right, lemon, anything which is sour to taste, right? So in that we have vitamin C, right? So the disease which is caused because of the absence of vitamin C is scurvy, right? And what are the symptoms? It is usually the disease associated with your teeth. So you have bleeding gums, wound that takes longer time to heal, and these are certain examples, these are certain symptoms which indicate towards the disease scurvy. Then we have another type of vitamin which is very essential, that is vitamin D. And the absence of vitamin D actually causes rickets. Now this vitamin is really important for the development of bone. So the disease is associated with the bone formation. So what will happen in this case, that bones will become soft and bent, right? So it will be bow shaped. The legs of the, usually scur rickets is seen in small children and during the development phase, right? So we know the source of vitamin D is milk, right? In fishes also we find vitamin D, also in eggs, right? And even sun is the source of vitamin D. So all of these should be consumed so that the deficiency can be avoided. Next you have calcium. Then again, calcium is something which is essential for our bone. So if calcium is absent, then we find bone and teeth decay, right? So we see that the bone and the teeth will start decaying, they will start becoming weaker, right? So what happens is that weak bones are seen and tooth decay is seen usually. So what you can do to avoid it, usually you have milk is one of the major sources of your calcium. Then you have iodine. This is again a mineral. All of these are required in small quantities, but they are really important, right? So these are what? These are your minerals, and all of these are the vitamins, right? So iodine, in the absence of iodine, we find the disease called as the goiter, that is the swelling of the neck, right? So what are the symptoms? First of all, glands in the neck appear swollen and mental disability in children is seen. So usually what happens is the child is not able to develop mentally, and what happens, the swelling in the neck is seen, right? So this is one of the symptoms. That is why iodine is really important during the growth phase of the child, and also when a woman is pregnant, right? During that time also iodine is really important. So where do we get it from? We usually get it from the fishes, right? We get it from your salt. Then also we get it from ginger. Different examples are there from which we get iodine. Then next is iron, is again very important in the formation of blood, and that is why if the iron is deficient, we find that we suffer from the disease called as anemia. That means this is where the blood formation is quite slow, right? And the main problem with this is weakness, right? So enough blood is not being able to form in the absence of iron, right? So what is the source of that? Usually green leafy vegetables like spinach is a rich source of iron. Apart from that, we also have pomegranate, which is again a very important source of iron, and there are different other sources as well. So in this way, we see that all of these diseases can be prevented if we eat a balanced diet, and we see that how it is important that all of these minerals play a very peculiar role in our body, and that is why it is important for us to have a diet which we are able to obtain daily, right? Many times we see that although the availability of all kind of food is present, but not everybody have the access to such kind of food, usually because of the social and the economic problems. That is why it is important that everybody should have the right of proper food and definitely a balanced diet, so that the children and the even young adults are not suffering from these kinds of diseases. So this is the reason why we see, because of all these different nutrients that are present, we see that different region of our country have variety of food, and different types of foods are included in our diet, right? So I hope you were able to understand all of this. Now let's move on to question and answers.